we'll get into it, and this is supposed to be interactive. We're here to provide you some information, but we want information back, right? So a couple things, just high level around the city and our team on economic development. Our job really in economic development is to, while protecting and enhancing the quality of life in Morgan Hill, we're all about creating jobs and trying to create revenue for the city. In the vein of that process, right, we want to protect that quality of life as it relates to downtown. We view in the city, downtown, we really want it to be the living room, the family room, the kitchen, the bar, the place you go for entertainment. And we don't want people just driving through downtown. We want people coming to downtown and staying and visiting in downtown. And there has been a lot of investment made by the city in downtown, and I think a lot of those investments that predate me, predate Brittany, Edith Ramirez, Leslie Little, previous city managers, all that work has been done, all that money has been invested, and it's making a difference. Downtown, we'll show a slide. It shows that downtown is like the fourth largest sales tax generating district in the city, which is really unusual. And it's really, I think, shows the success of downtown and the potential of downtown because it does all of that. It's the fourth largest sales tax generating district, and it doesn't have a big box store. It doesn't have a Target or a Home Depot or a Safeway, or a Walmart. So it's really the small businesses, a lot of them, that are aggregating and making that revenue. So we want to figure out how we help that, how we support that, how we enhance that. So with that, we'll jump into the presentation. And I haven't seen this since Friday, so I have no idea what's on the slide. So here's the topics we want to cover, and the fourth Saturday Downtown Street Series. We'll talk about development projects. We'll talk about downtown retail, some upcoming city-led projects, the PBID, and you have multiple representatives from the PBID board that are here, and then kind of a 6-month downtown work plan. And with that, so those are the meeting topics. If there's something else somebody wants to talk about, we can obviously do that in the end when we do questions, comments. But with that, we're going to go to the fourth Saturday Downtown Street Series. I'm going to turn this over to Brittany so she can talk about it. But I will give a lead in the fact that the funding that we're using for the Downtown Street Series was initially allocated by the city, $200,000, during the Monterey Street calming exercise, when the city was looking at reducing traffic going through the downtown from 2 lanes each way to 1 lane each way. And the city council allocated about $200,000 to a downtown parklet program. But we did get a lot of pushback when we were doing feedback and interaction with folks and researching ideas about doing another parklet, taking up more parking spots, not necessarily liking that idea, that concept. Where do you put it? Whose business do you put it in front of? So we came back with a different idea, and that was to do a series of downtown street closures on the weekend and do some activations. A lot of the big downtown events, Mushroom Mardi Gras, Taste of Morgan Hill, have kind of gone away. So we're looking at other ways to try to activate downtown in a short, condensed, meaningful way that could actually meet the new requirements of security and safety for our police department. Because doing big regional events where you're drawing 5,000-10,000 people, the new security requirements are very comprehensive and very expensive. So we're focusing these events as just being community-based. And so with that, turn it over to Brittany.
Okay, so just wanted to give a quick overview. Has everybody heard of the fourth Saturday Downtown Street Series? Yes.
Great.
Yay, the communication is working. Perfect. So as Matt kind of gave an overview, so we got some funding from the City Council, which was repurposed from a Parklet program into these, what we're calling the 4 Saturday Downtown Street Series. So these are going to be one-time events, so they're not going to be repeat events. Once the money is gone, it's gone. So we were trying to think, how can we do a certain amount of events and engage the entire community as a whole? So if you have a dog or like dogs, raise your hand. Oh, I see a couple cat people in here. Nice. If you have a car or like music, raise your hand. If you have kids, grandkids, or like Halloween, raise your hand. There we go. Okay, great. So we've engaged most of the community here in those 3 events. So the way we're working through them, they're meant to be free, family-friendly activations in downtown. So we're meant to reinforce the city branding and support our existing downtown businesses. So we're not selling beer and wine, we're not bringing in food trucks. It's really just a highlight of the downtown, but also meant to support and complement, not compete with our downtown businesses. These events will take place on August 26th, September 23rd, and October 28th. Each of them will be themed. Each of them will vary in theme and programming in order to, as I mentioned, attract a wide range. So for August 26th, I think if you go to the next slide, Jasmine, it has the pictures. Jasmine, by the way, has been amazing at helping me do this. We're basically planning 3 events at this point, and if anybody here has planned or assisted in planning events, you know everything that goes into those. So these are one time, but completely started from the bottom up. So our first one in August is going to be a Doggy Days of Summer. So that's bring your dog out, there's dog agility, there's gonna be dog pet pools, there's gonna be a stage with pet contests. So it's gonna be everything dog. But in addition to that, we wanted people that don't have dogs to come down as well. So we have a lounge area where you can come and bring your own picnic, or you can grab food from one of the downtown restaurants and come outside and eat. And then we also have an area for the kids where there's outdoor kids games. There's, what do we have, Jasmine? Cornhole. Connect 4.
Yes.
The ping pong table took us 2 hours to put together Friday. So somebody please use the ping pong table. But we have a bunch of those, and then we have some rotating entertainment for the kids as well for each of these. So we've got a mobile gaming truck coming out. We've got some inflatable fun things, and then we've got an electric jack-o'-lantern, kind of like an electric bull ride that's going to be out for the kids in October, which should be fun. So, so for August we have the Doggy Days of Summer. For September is going to be a car show and makers market. So the makers market's just going to be all of our local makers as well as some of our existing retailers downtown that we're encouraging to come and basically pour out onto Monterey Road, set up some booths, encourage people to not only go in the store but to activate the downtown as well. And the October one will be a kids fest and safe trick or treat. So we're partnering with the Chamber of Commerce to run the car show in September, partnering with the Downtown Association to run the safe trick or treat, which traditionally is on Halloween night, but now has been shifted until the Saturday before, working very closely with Deb as she's organizing that portion of it, and then looking to add on potentially a pretty large activation of a trunk or treat section as well. So those are how the events are lining up. The street closure, it's going to be on Monterey Road from Main to 4th. It's going to start at 7 and reopen at 5. We've gone through many iterations of this. But originally we were thinking a whole day long thing and having a movie night straight on Monterey Road downtown, but then we thought the impact on a Saturday night for all of our restaurants downtown would be pretty heavy. So we decided we're gonna do a 10 to 4 event programming, which would require the 7 to 5 closure. And then we're gonna break, and then we're gonna come back for an outdoor movie night from 8 to 10. We're going to have that on 3rd Street. So we're gonna close down 3rd Street, and we're gonna have the movie there as Monterey Road reopens. So for each of those 3 nights, we've got a themed movie. So the Doggy Days of Summer, Pets 2. And again, these are free for the kids. We're encouraging the community to come out and bring your picnic baskets, bring your tables and chairs and blankets and all of that. So Pets 2 is the first one, Cars 1 is for our September one, and Addams Family, the original, for our October activation.
Cool.
Yeah. And this is kind of just an overview. We talked about it already. So themed vendor booths for each of these, a stage with live entertainment, outdoor inflatable and kids games, and then picnic tables and outdoor seating.
I love it.
Thank you.
A couple key things. We can go back on this is Brittany has done all the work on this. So
Let's Jasmine.
And we're sad to say that Jasmine is leaving us soon. She's been an intern with our team, but she's got a full-time job in Mountain View, starting
The 15th of
the
August.
15th of August. So
Congratulations.
you'll have to come visit us at these events,
I will.
Jasmine.
I'm
So
volunteering.
We're really excited. So congratulations to
Thank
you,
you.
Jasmine. The timing piece, we really struggled. We kind of wanted it to go in the evening, but we also want to make sure that people can get to restaurants in the evening if that's where they want to go. We also made sure the street closure was Main to 4th to make sure people can get from Monterey into the 4th Street garage, have access there. Also, the gas station on the corner hates it when we close the street there at the corner, Sing Ready, because people can't get into the gas station. So we're conscious of those things. We also have a better traffic plan from the first closure that was earlier this year. Depot Street really got backed up because people were trying to leave Depot at Main and trying to go left. And if you've ever tried to do that during normal traffic, it's bad. So we're going to have a traffic control where everybody goes to that intersection, they have to go right.
And the
exit
depot
out.
alignment is now open, so that's going to alleviate at least half of that
Yeah,
backup.
and Depot's now open to done, so that will help. So we kind of thought through some of these things. The last piece around this is one-time activations. It's one-time money that the city has, and we're hoping that if they're to continue, we've kind of figured out the costing of it. This has been an exercise internally with the city of how do you close the street, how do you do a traffic plan, how do you put a security plan in place and figure out what those costs are. We're hoping at some point we'll be able to hand it off to the chamber, the downtown association, or the PBID to continue to do these types of things, and then figure out how do you create revenue generating components to it to make it an ongoing type event, because really the city is absorbing the hard costs, right? We're not in it to make money, we're absorbing the hard costs to get this going. Any questions?
Well, I'm assuming you want us all to promote these also. So will you send us something that we can email out, I'm just gonna say the word flyer, but that we could email to our,
Absolutely.
and then do you also, something we could share on Instagram or Facebook that's already done and we just,
Yep, so we have a 4th Saturday full series flyer, which kind of doesn't quite detail out, but gives an overview of kind of the 3 events and the closure, just kind of a comprehensive look of everything. And then we've just finished the Doggy Days of Summer flyer. So that's ready, and then they all have different, whether you're posting to Instagram or Facebook, the dimensions and everything are good. So I'm happy to send that to this group. And yeah, any way that you can push and share would be very much appreciated.
Is there a place where that can be found on either the city website or Choose?
So Jasmine created a landing page for this. So if you go to choosemorganhill.com, and then on the right-hand side, there's a drop-down box, and you'll see the 4 Saturday Street series. And then all of these, just like this Jasmine created, are all detailed out. So they have very specific, as far as the description for the activations. So any information you need will be there. And I believe the full series flyer is on there as well and can be downloaded.
Excellent.
I was just going to say, are you connected with Krista? But I knew you were.
Yep.
So, okay, great.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good job. All right. So we'll go to the next slide. And Brittany, where's our lumberyard?
It's on there.
there.
Oh, there it is. I was gonna make a joke, but it's too soon. Too soon.
But we're with you.
Yeah, just it's unsaid. So we're really excited. Some really great projects happening in downtown. Dan's East Gallery is looking amazing with the mass timber out. Dan, don't cover it. Just leave it as it is.
Yes, stunning.
I think you'll like the coverage.
No, I know. So we're excited. You're doing HVAC, electrical, plumbing now, and you're targeting January, February, perhaps?
We should be in and functioning in January, February. I don't think Ellie and I are planning to have our first big events until March, just to give us a little factor of safety.
Excellent. So very exciting for downtown Morgan Hill. The lumberyard, 49 multifamily attached homes. Coming out of the ground, it'll have 3,000 square feet of office as well. Slight setback in the development due to a local arsonist who our PD has captured and has put behind bars. He lit 8 fires, something like that, in Morgan Hill. He's running around, he's causing all kinds of chaos. Just a career criminal, so bad person off the streets in Morgan Hill. We're glad he didn't cause other damage to other properties, so we're fortunate. And then the most frequently asked question, what's going on with the Granada Hotel? You know, Frank Leal, this, that. So the project is Mohai Hotel now. In December, the city approved a partial 5th floor, giving him an additional 13 rooms. So it went from 60 rooms to 73 rooms. The 5th floor will be set back, so unless you're in the back of the building, you won't necessarily see it. You won't be able to see it from Monterey. He has a MOU with the city where he has very specific timelines that he needs to hit for the development of the hotel. He resubmitted new design plans for the 5th floor, 4th and 5th plan in April, got comments back, resubmitted at the end of June, new architectural drawings, and those are under city review right now. And now the city is a couple days late in getting comments back to him, so it's on us. But we do expect, he does have an active construction permit for floors 1 through 3. We do expect the site to be active by the middle of August. And his deadline with the city MOU is August 31st. So I think what you're going to see in the next couple weeks is materials being staged at the vacant lot next to Wells Fargo. That lot has always been designated as a construction staging lot, so you're going to see materials staged there and the construction starting to activate. So it is happening. We're excited. The city is trying to be very supportive. We do believe that a downtown boutique hotel will be great for downtown. It's going to put people heads in beds in downtown every night. So we're excited about getting that forward. And if you're Frank Leal, don't watch social media because it's just bad out there. And a lot of bad information as well. So we did update the city's website about this project. So if you want to know what's happening with this project, you can go to the city's website and actually get facts about what's happening with that project. Any questions?
From the mid-August start, will construction be continuous until completion? And how long is that?
As far as I know, Dan, as far as I know.
Soon.
Yes.
Soon, Dan.
Yes, I hope so.
And the city's made all kinds of the accommodations necessary so that we don't have issues on Monterey during normal business hours.
We shouldn't, no, we should not. In fact, Frank has talked about trying to, in the evenings, activate the parklets in front of the Granada Theater and up Monterey, in front of the construction site after hours.
The reason I ask is that I messed up 2nd Street for a day and a half, and I messed up the alleyway several times during my construction. If I had to do it all over again, I would publish as much as possible the date, because it changes, as much as possible the dates of when 2nd Street's going to be messed up, when the alleyways be messed up, so that the retailers can get ahead of it. That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have done that. I didn't. This is my first project and my last. But I think that might not be a bad idea if it's going to impact 1st or 2nd or Monterey. It might not be a bad idea to give us retailers a little heads up.
Yeah, the good news, his site is not as tight as yours is. He actually has space behind it and access from 1st and 2nd.
So it's just not going to happen. It's not going to
Well, I think you never know. I mean, probably towards the end when you got to put, HVAC on the top of the roof or something. But he's got a lot of, the hard concrete and steel is already there. So some of the major work's already been. But that's a great point. So we'll keep an eye out for encroachment permits.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes,
As a
ma'am.
2nd Street retailer, I think it would be really fantastic, even if they do need to schedule closure, to do it in the earlier morning hours, because we don't open until 11. typically 10 on the weekends, but there's no work on the weekends. So even if they did have to have like a big rig or something coming in to offload materials, if they scheduled it between 7 or 8 and 10, it wouldn't really impact maybe GVA because they do have an early morning crowd, but I think there's some latitude. And by the way, your gallery is most appreciated from the Second Street retailer perspective.
Thank you for saying that, because I know I messed you up real bad on
It's
Second
okay.
Street.
I forgive you.
Feel the love. All right. Put it out there, Raina. All right. Just
Back to the Mohi Hotel, what were comments out of the fire department, and what other special equipment will they need to accommodate that top floor?
they have the equipment they need to accommodate fourth floor. Nothing new.
So, and what's the total height of the building?
65.
65, so that's into that, above, there's a height range, I can't remember right off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I'm an engineer, and I work with high-rise and mid-rise buildings, so.
Yeah, we're allowing 65 feet in the city now. You see the La Quinta, 60, Sunsuite, 65, Cochrane Commons 2.
Parking garage, just for reference, what is the parking?
That's 65, I think, the
Is
top of the
that- okay,
garage.
so
Yeah,
that-
yep. It's becoming the new standard in town. Yeah.
It's not a new project, but it's been going on for such a long time, I feel like it is. The building that is across the street from Mohi, which is a title company, it's a wood building.
Yeah.
It's right near my daughter's house, and it just.
So it's the old Chamber of Commerce was there, Republic Title, so that's a Leal-owned building. He's
Yeah.
making improvements. He's been doing interior improvements there. He bought the building a year and a half ago, and has made tenant improvements inside, and he is under an administrative review right now for external facade changes. And much of the facade changes are gonna mirror the look and feel of the hotel.
That's awesome. This is all good.
So it's gonna take, I think it's going to the administrative hearing this week or next week. It's not going to planning commission because he's not making, I mean, it's changing the exterior design, but it meets all of the city's standards, and it's gonna be a nice improvement. And when the hotel's done and that's done, you'll have kind of a matching corner a little bit.
Will it continue to be commercial, non-retail, or will it have retail?
It will have commercial, it will have office. So Frank is moving his business, all of his business operations have moved to that building. So he's on the second floor. He's also got some rental space to work up there. If somebody needs office space, there's some office space to rent. And then on the first floor, he's gonna have, it's gonna essentially serve as the catering and organizing center for his wedding business, where you go pick out your linens and your flowers and all of those things. It's gonna be called the Lux Building, L-U-X-E. And I do believe they'll be doing wine tasting in there. Tasting your wines, everything you need to do your wedding, set up your wedding at some of his venues, everything will be done in there. I think they'll do flowers and.
His model is a one-stop shop, so
Yeah.
you go there and you are able to do everything in one location in one sitting for the most part.
So,
They do lovely weddings too. My cousin got married at his very
yeah, so that's the vision for that property. Okay. All right, next slide.
Did you say something about the lumberyard? Did I miss that? Did I zone out?
It's under construction, Sullivan. It's, yeah, and the cool thing is the Depot Street realignment's done. That is really what was taking a really long time. But yeah, so this goes back to the shopping centers, the sales tax in the city, downtown district. You know, it's an assembly of 100 businesses that are competing with the other districts in downtown, or I mean around town. This is Cochrane Commons with Target. This is Home Depot, Safeway. This is Trader Joe's, other Safeway down here on Tenant. We can't tell you exactly who every dollar amount are the largest sales tax generators, but you can figure out who they are. But this is important, and we want to grow this. This is, how the city generates money into its general fund, and that's how we pay for all of our essential services, police and fire. And economic development, we're all funded through the general fund. Any questions around this? So this number has been creeping up in the last couple of years, and it's good to see. So downtown retail. For us in economic development, we recognize there is challenges with downtown retail. There's not enough of it to make it a destination place to shop. It's just that's the reality of it. And we're trying to figure out where there's going to be vacancies and where we can put more retail opportunities, different types of retail. So things that we can do on the city side is to increase retailer visibility, so increased wayfinding, signage, campaigns on social media, a directory, things of those nature, things that we want to do on the city. Brittany's really good about doing campaigns. She did the Shop Local campaign when she first came to the city, kind of took over what the chamber did during COVID, rebranded it from the city. We do have the PBID website up. We can talk a little bit more about that, but within the PBID website, Brittany put every downtown business on there. Everybody's got a link to their business on there. It's just a matter of telling people where that is. We're pushing around some ideas. We just met with David on Friday. Did we meet? It was Friday. It seems like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. It was a great weekend. This is and I show this as an example. This is a product from Napa. I'll pass it around. I'm not saying we're going to do this, but I want to do it. We haven't talked to the PBID about it. We haven't talked to David about it, but it's downtown Napa actually has a lot of retail, and I stumbled upon that 2 years ago, and I found it in my hotel. I found it in restaurants. I found it at retailers. They create 10,000 of those for $10,000. We just got a phone call from the director who says, "Oh, we upgraded the paper. The paper on that's pretty good." So we don't have enough retail just to do retail, so it would probably be one of those dine, shop, drink downtown things, maybe service. We'll figure it out, but very early stages. But we want to do something like that. I think it'd be fun to do, and we could find local partners to help us do it, a local designer, a local photographer, and do it all local. So we have some ideas around that, and the city wants to be supportive of this and find ways to do that. So increase retailer foot traffic. There's been ideas around a passport campaigns, and then obviously specific retailer programming and events. And there is a new retailer group that's organized. We had a really great meeting with those folks last week, really got some great feedback. And we're interested in working with those folks, trying to figure out how we help support the group, how we create a little bit of infrastructure around that, whether it's the city or the chamber or the downtown association. We'll figure that out. But I think we're all having conversations, and it's a matter of all kind of bringing those conversations together. Sidewalk Saturday. The retailer meeting, we got a lot of great feedback on Sidewalk Saturday. Sidewalk Saturday was initially started to get those local retailers out into the store, out of their shops during COVID, and create some opportunities for those businesses to thrive or actually survive during COVID, right? But since that time, Sidewalk Saturdays, its own success, has both been great, but also a little bit potentially detrimental to some small businesses. So we're trying to figure out how do we enhance Sidewalk Saturdays to make sure we're supporting local retailers and prioritizing local retailers and working with them. Brittany's done a fabulous job with Sidewalk Saturdays. We went from, 8 vendors to 12 vendors to 22, I think, every Saturday. And now we have a list of vendors who want to come to Morgan Hill on every Saturday. It's like 75 or 80 people that are all local. And so we need to figure out a way to curate that, give local preference, and then potentially figure out, hey, how do you make that, this is my boss, Edith, how do you make an evening market? How do you get people into downtown in the evenings? Before dinner, after dinner, something like that. So how do you shift that around a little bit so it just doesn't become, so it's not stagnant? And then the last thing is support that retail committee or that working group who we just met with. So how do we do that? We understand ultimately if we want to grow that sales tax revenue number for the city, we need to figure out a way to generate and support retail and restaurants in downtown. So we're trying to figure out how we do that. And working with landlords is really important too, of making sure that we have the right mix of businesses that are actually open and operating during hours that make sense when people are down there. Ray, you got a question?
Yeah, Matt, I've asked you about this before. There's a big
Oh, don't ask again. That means you didn't like my answer last time.
Some of the other people were not part of that forum, but there's a big spot that's right on the corner of Monterey and Main Street there that's been vacant for probably more than 5 years now.
Ooh, he's going there. Yeah.
I wish more people would go there.
So I'm wondering,
Del Toro?
in light of, yes,
Yeah.
in light of what you just said, and in the 2 previous slides, this slide and the other one, I think it'd be a great opportunity. I'm not sure if we had time on that phone call when I asked about it. If you had time to get into some detail, but I think enough time has gone by where we can give them some particular ideas about what he can and cannot do with his property.
I inquired.
So, you know,
I have
frankly,
met, so I have,
frankly, it's a
yeah.
bit of an eyesore.
Yeah, I wish people would post on that on social media.
I think that,
Yeah.
you know, with the work that you guys are doing, which is fantastic all the way around, I always tell people about the city of Morgan Hill, even back east, it's a very well-balanced town. It is a model for others to strive for, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, as I drive up and down the street, you know, every day, several times a day, I see this, and
Yeah.
it's like a black eye. And I'm wondering what can be done. And I talk to the guy, I know him very well. But it's just,
He owns the property next to you.
yes, I know. Rex wants to meet with me this week about some other topics, but nevertheless, I know him, and it's nothing personal against him, it's just that, you know, we're trying to do, the city's trying to do something in particular, which is great, deserve a lot of credit, and there's a lot of measurable results that are coming out of your guys' hard work, so that's great. Nonetheless, we still have this acre weight that's there, and I want to know what the city is doing, or what you can do to get constructive details about moving this along to open up something that will be in line with what you're talking about.
So I have spent significant time, Brittany, significant time meeting with the property owner. We've gone through probably 3 different iterations of things that were going to happen on that site in the last 18 months. And as I stand here in front of you today, I can't say that any of those ideas are coming forward. However, I do have some concerns that given the new state law around housing and the value of that property, that he could very easily flip that property to residential and not put any retail on it. I don't think he will do that because I do believe he is concerned about the community and we need retail on that corner. We need something. I'd love to see it stay a restaurant or a small market or something that is active. I mean, it's a great site. The city has very little power to do anything. It is not, it's not completely run down. It's not, You know, it's just not to the state where you could do eminent domain or something of that nature that's very, you know, the city of Morgan Hill doesn't necessarily go there. So we don't have a redevelopment agency to come along and buy it outright for the asking price that he would like to buy it or like to sell it. For the right price, he would sell it. My concern is the only
Let's have Frank talk to him.
we need Frank to finish what he's got going on. Things. Yeah, so, yeah, I'd love, my concern is the only person who's gonna come along and buy it will be a home builder, right? And try to build high-rise homes on it. And you could come in and do, I mean, if somebody came in and did an affordable project within the half mile of the train station,
Yeah.
they could go up more than 65 feet. They could go like 7 stories or something like that. We have a project proposed on Monterey. That's a state mandated project. It looks like a county jail. High-rise, affordable residential. No
I don't
parking.
know what your 3 iterations were in those discussions, but I happen to know that when I talked to him personally about it, he wants to keep it as a food sort of idea. I know the details of what he's talking about with that, because he's talking to me specifically about
Yeah.
it. And he wants to meet with me, he called me a week ago. And not in respect to this, but I happen to know what his brain is thinking.
Yeah.
So one of those iterations, have they been about food, retail, anything like that you've explored?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Significant time and
Okay.
energy. And yes. It's top of mind, but it's frustrating.
Whatever you can do, I don't know what else, I'm sure you've thought through up and down, a little bit of frustration in your tone, I can see, but this farm is right over there, can, supply all the vegetables to all this downtown if he wants to,
Right,
so.
yeah.
Well, when I inquired about it, I initially inquired to see if it was for sale, because it's been vacant for a significant amount of time. I've lived in Morgan Hill for 13 years, and at least half that time it's been vacant. The last person who occupied the space, I, through an intermediary, had an opportunity to connect with them to see who is the agent for that space, because initially my husband was like, well, maybe we can buy it. And my intent was to use it as mixed use retail, and on the top floor, some cooperative space for small business incubation, and also an open forum space for activities. So because my business is service and retail, I was going to kind of subdivide it. The person I spoke to, and I don't know, speaking out of turn here, if that person had the real latitude to speak on behalf of the owner, said that they are reserving that property for rezoning because they want to put high-density homes there, whatever that means, apartment building, small condos that are, stacked up. And so, because I said, even if they did that, could they just open it in the interim and they could lease the space? I've already been able to make do with space that's not zoned specifically or created specifically for retail. I know how to flip it around and make it work. So I was like, well, in the interim, until they get someone to buy the property or redevelop it, would they be interested into like a short-term lease? No, because there's a certain amount of time that the space has to sit empty or unused, not generating any income for the city or the ownership to force the rezoning. So that's what I was told. I don't know if that is what is actually happening, but that was, I inquired, the first time I inquired 5 years ago when I first opened my first space, and then again 2 years ago. And still, because I was like, well, it's still empty. Are they thinking they might be interested now? No. So I don't know if that's the truth, but this is what someone who is connected to the ownership and the previous Acevedo family owner said. So
Yeah.
that may be.
So
where the issue
my promise to
was.
this group, I'll follow up today
Okay.
and I'll go have coffee
We love you,
or
man.
lunch or whatever.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it takes time and effort, but that's
First
fine.
March.
That's what I'm here for. I'll take Brittany, I'm taking Brittany with me.
Attracting businesses into the downtown area, the types of businesses, are there any restrictions based on use permit on any type of businesses in the downtown area, if you guys have entered into the code to kind of help shape the types of businesses you're opening?
So there are restrictions on the first floor, there needs to be retail.
30%.
30,
minimum, I believe.
what is it, 30% minimum retail?
Is that a personal services retail or versus a retail or?
When did that ordinance take effect? It was, I forget.
Okay, it's in the downtown specific plan, I believe, but it's any type of retail. So if you're going, not restaurant, but if you're going in and you want to open a beer tasting tap room, you have to have 30% retail in there. So it can be that, or it could be if you're going to open the Crystal Gemstone, it has to be 30%. So easier for her than it would be for somebody coming in with beer, but still doable.
Could it be like a barber shop that sells
Yes.
stuff? Is that
Yes.
considered
Product,
retail?
yes.
Yeah, so it could be a salon that has 30% product sales.
Yeah.
But candidly, it's really difficult for the city to measure that and to enforce it. So we need to be careful about how we vet. And by the way, as it goes to retail development, Brittany and I both go to the ICSC conference twice a year. We go to Monterey, we go to San Diego. I think next year I finally got Edith convinced we can go to Vegas. It's a joke. Edith's like, why do you want to go to Vegas? I said, because everybody tells us we need to go to Vegas. That's where all the big retailers are. And it's not just downtown, it's the rest of the city, but it's the international ICSC, it's the International Conference of Shopping Centers. And we go meet with folks and we talk about what vacancies we have, what potential vacancies we have. And we're consistently shopping Morgan Hill. One of the challenges we have is we're a community that's less than 50,000 people. That tends to be the watermark for various retailers, like maybe a Whole Foods. They want to see that population growth. The good news is, or bad news, depending where you sit, we have 2,800 housing units under development in the city. The average resident per unit is 3.1 in the city, so we're going to hit that 50,000 mark in the next 3 to 4 years probably, if you see the growth that's coming. So that will help us on the retail development. But we are constantly working on it. We're constantly talking to potential landlords who are going to have vacancies. We have good connections. We're local retail development and commercial brokers who can help us with relationships to help us identify good users. And we have some new retail coming to not just downtown, we have another new business coming to downtown. Not quite ready to talk about it, but we do have some other retail coming to the city in the pretty near future. So, yes, sir.
So it seemed like there was a really interesting plan in the Morgan Hill Times for the 2nd Street and I think it's not Depot. It's on the other side of the park. Another Leal property, that L building, and
I'm Del Monte. Yeah.
Thank you very much. 2nd Street, Del Monte. And it really looked really interesting, like an open air market. But now that I look there, it seems like lots of conditional use approved for personal services, barber shops and salons.
So it's got a commercial. It's got a commercial zoning on it right now. It's actually what's it called? That site is actually zoned for mixed use residential.
Yep.
In the future. But its current use has been commercial, and if you stop doing any commercial uses there for 6 months, then it would go to the mixed-use residential zoning. So Frank has continued to use it as a commercial center. He was looking like at an outdoor market and things of that nature, but I think he backed off from that plan and is just doing short-term leases with small businesses in there, keeping it commercial, keeping it active. He made some nice improvements. It looks a lot better than it did a year ago. So we'll see what he does with that site in the future.
And are you monitoring those use permits in terms of the lease period?
Yeah, he's completely in compliance. Yeah. Okay.
I got 2 additional items. First item, I remember the police department putting in some volunteer programs. I think they had 2 or 3 or 4 young little explorers, depositors, and walk up and down Morgan Hill nighttime.
Cadets.
Yes. I really loved it, but I haven't seen them lately. Is that a one time or is that going to be continuing?
Yeah, so the cadet program, they're really struggling on recruitment, retention of recruits, of cadets. So that program has kind of gone away. We've been trying to bring it back, but the police department has been a little hesitant to bring it back. But we are, in fact, I had a meeting with Edith this morning as a follow-up. Need to go talk to the police chief. We're looking at the downtown policing in general. We want dedicated officers in downtown. We want dedicated hours. And he's made some commitments that we need to follow up on. So if it's not cadets, it's going to be a badged officer or officers in downtown, because we think we deserve the additional attention. So the cadets, they're nice, they walk around, they have no ability to enforce, they can't run a parking ticket. If something bad happens, they literally call dispatch and get somebody out there. So having a uniformed officer would probably ultimately be better.
Okay, second, it's just a point of clarification about the arson that happened on Depot Street. The CAL FIRE department has a specific dedicated arson investigator. So they're the ones actually led that investigation to find out who it was and all that. And so I just wanted to make that point for clarification and give them credit. I happened to meet with the guy specifically. So within the CAL FIRE department, they have a specific, there's two of them. They cover extremely large areas, so they're very busy. But one guy in particular has done an outstanding job and led to the capture of that particular individual. So it's CAL FIRE.
Yeah, thank you. City-led projects, things that are happening downtown. Part of the downtown street closure project, we did allocate about $60,000 to put bollards, not just on 4th Street, but at actually each of the corners. They're already at 3rd Street. The bollards are at 3rd Street, so we got matching bollards to come in and go to each of the intersections. There's a little bit of a challenge putting bollards into brick. The city maintenance team is trying to figure that out to make sure they can do that properly without destroying a bunch of bricks. So that's in process. Spider artwork, the spider's not lighting up right. It's a very detailed project, so that should be happening in the next 3 to 4 months to get the spider on the parking garage up and running. Parking garage after hour access. So one of the things we just heard from Michael Van Avery at SunSuite this morning is people like to drive into the parking garage late at night, go up to the 3rd floor, 4th floor, do donuts, spin around, rev their engines, and it disturbs all the residents of SunSuite. So what the city is proposing is that after 10 p.m., there's a crossbar that goes down. You can't get access into the garage, so it prevents people from going into the garage late at night and doing those types of activities. There'll be a bar on the other side that comes up when you go out. So there's going to be some controlled access points of the downtown parking garage. I'm also want to ban motorcycles from the parking garage as well, and just have them park on the street. That's a whole policy that we need to discuss internally. We have some folks within city government who love motorcycles and don't want to limit their access. But in San Jose, they don't allow motorcycles into a parking garage. They have to park in the street. So we're trying to do that. City-owned parking lot. There is a schedule on the city-owned lots to repave. Depot was just recently redone, and there's a schedule, and we're holding Public Works to that schedule. Now we have the P-bid in place. We need to make sure they hold up their end of the deal, doing their ongoing maintenance. And then looking for opportunities for future art activations and murals. Interesting, during the P-bid process, Frontier Communications, who has that building on 2nd Street behind Dan's art gallery that's under construction, they said, "You want to do a mural on our building? Okay, let's do it." We just got to figure out how we do it, how we fund it. But it's kind of an ugly building, right? It's a switching station. So Dan, I'm probably going to come to you and Ellie and figure out how do we make it cool. Sure. So, Anything else, Brittany, on that? Yes, ma'am.
You might want to talk to the class of 2023 Leadership Morgan Hill. I'm one of the directors for leadership. They're doing a huge mural in the park on the west side of town that has the bathrooms and stuff. And the woman who's doing that mural does that for a living. And she might be a good person to contact if you were thinking of doing a mural on that building, because it's going to be safeguarded, graffiti-proof, and it's halfway done. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's halfway done. And that would be, might save you a lot of grief, because they've done a lot of homework to get to that point.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, you bet.
And the good thing, usually, once you put a mural up, the graffiti folks leave it alone because they respect the art. So,
I think the only other place we were looking at for art activation or mural would be the alleyway between Sushi Confidential and the Hill. So we've kind of been asking those property owners in that area to clean up, do some weed abatement, and looking, I know the mayor is very motivated to clean up that space and do something engaging and artsy in that area specifically.
A little rough.
Which space was that?
It's the alleyway between Sushi Confidential and the Hill, and it goes back out to the parking lot.
it's a walkway. It's a walkway. Yeah. And it can get a little rough in that little space. Yeah.
Sorry, another question. What is the relationship with library arts, park and rec, and master trail plan, and the retail economic development plan? Where's the overlay, and how are you trying to improve the retail side with the master trail plan? Is there any cross-link relationship?
With parks?
Yeah, with the master trail. And the master trail running through downtown Morgan Hill, downtown Morgan Hill retail.
I don't know if we've tried to really think about really connecting the dots with a master trail. I know that when we look at arts and things of that nature, and we're looking at murals, we would engage the LCAC. We would do that. That's an obvious piece. But we were looking at the lane reduction in downtown. That was all about expanding, access to bicyclists and pedestrians. But that just is, dead on arrival at this point. So, that's been a big work of the city of how do you make downtown more walkable, more bikeable. So it's been in the thought process, but right now it has no connection to what we're doing on retail.
I think there probably could be something there, because if you look at some of those communities, they are merging their trails with their retail footprint. And I think that's part of the whole master trail plan in Morgan Hills, to make those connections between points of the city, but these are the center parts. And I think there could be some thoughtful overlap.
Okay. PBID. The PBID was approved by the city council, actually approved by the property owners in November. A majority of the property owners, and by the way, a majority of the property owners by weight supported the PBID, and then the city weighed in with their support. And then the city council approved the PBID formation in November of last year. This is the boundary of the PBID. It's an assessment district. The PBID will provide enhanced services that are above and beyond what the services that the city provides. The PBID now has, is there another slide? Yeah. So the PBID will be managed by the Downtown Morgan Hill Improvement District, which is a 501c3, 501c6, actually. That's supposed to be a C6. Nonprofit organization. It's really about clean and safe programs, some capital improvements, art installations, and marketing and events. Dan is the chair of the PBID board. We are just getting up and running as a PBID board. We've been meeting since January, March, something like that. Hani's on the PBID board. Eric's on the PBID board. I'm on the PBID board. And the goal, the assessment district starts in 2024. So we actually won't get our assessment funds until 2024. So we're kind of in the early stages of figuring out what do we do, what are our priorities, how do we want to make a splash. We do have some leftover money from the old P-bid. It's about a little over $100,000. So we're trying to figure out how to allocate that. But we recognize, right now, downtown's looking a little rough. It's looking a little dirty in places. The sidewalks need to be clean. We really want to encourage downtown property owners and downtown businesses to not just wait for the P-bid to do it, but actually clean your own sidewalks, clean the fronts of your own business, keep those things up. The P-bid can come along and do some enhanced services, but I think we're going to increase the level of communication with folks. So the P-bid is doing stuff in concert and hand in hand with business owners and property owners. So comments or questions on the P-bid?
Well, I was just curious, the building you guys were talking, the El Toro building, does he still have to maintain all that? Every once in a while it'll be, my
He does have to
customers will
maintain.
say.
Can you go back a slide, Justin? So if you look at the downtown district, that building sits right here. It's outside of the district. So the north side of Main is outside the district. Now, when the city redoes its downtown master plan, which will probably not happen for another year or two, we may look at expanding the downtown master plan a block or two up, maybe south. And then when the P-bid comes for renewal, maybe we look at incorporating those sides of the, but it was just easy to keep the P-bid, the same as the downtown specific plan when we launched. So, other questions on the P-bid? Jasmine? Next. So, work plan. We're interested, these are things that we want to do. We haven't necessarily figured out how to do them. Parking spot demarcation. Parking, people park little willy-nilly. There's not designated parking spots. There's not little tick marks. So, you go to park and you're like, well, if that person only parked, 3 feet up, I could actually park my car here. Or you see a spot, there's 2 cars there could be 4. So that's kind of a challenge. Repainting, the city doesn't repaint curbs, so there's some funding. So, red zones, yellow zones, green zones. This is part of short-term parking implementation. We recognize that there are the needs for small businesses, restaurants for pickup of, whether it's, DoorDash and all these drivers are parking illegally. Drop off for folks in front of restaurants, things of that nature. So we want to look at short-term parking implementation. Delivery regulations and restrictions. We've got delivery trucks parking in the middle of the street, all hours of the day. We've talked about the city. Some downtown districts have regulated deliveries to happen before noon. Could we go implement delivery hours 6 a.m. to 11 or something like that? We would not do that until we talk to the businesses. But we're trying to prevent, trucks from double parking on Monterey or on 3rd Street or on,
That's Amazon.
Yeah, that's Amazon. That's a whole other. They don't consider themselves delivery vehicles, but it's really the big semis that really cause a lot of problems. So we're trying to figure that out. But some cities have done that. It can be a challenge. And then noise ordinance and entertainment permits. Right now, the noise ordinance is very out in the city of Morgan Hill is pretty outdated, and we need to update it. There's really no good. Everything is a disturbance pretty much right now. And in downtown, we actually want the ability to have some noise. We want to have the ability to be live music. We want it to be our entertainment district. Sorry if you live there. But that's part of living in a downtown, right? You want it lively, but not really late into the evening. But right now, the way the noise ordinance works is me talking at this voice. If you could hear me, 100 feet or something like that. I'm in violation of the noise ordinance. Bubbles is in violation of the noise ordinance every time.
No, they're not.
Yes, you are. Every time you do live music. but it's just, we don't enforce it. And they do have a live entertainment permit, but the live entertainment permit actually violates the noise ordinance. So, yeah, you're looking at me funny, but it is, because it's about decibels.
We love the entertainment.
I know, and that's why nobody complains, but, or they complain, but we ignore it. But we do have a couple residents on 3rd Street who complain about everything. So, there's challenges. So we want to work with our PD to give them the tools they need to actually enforce the noise ordinance and create like a live entertainment district in downtown. So we'll be working on that. Yes, sir.
Well, most of all those businesses that have entertainment have that written in their use permits from their conditional use permit to operate their businesses. When I was on the planning commission, we definitely wrote those specific statements on hours of operation and noise levels when they can and can't provide those over the limits beyond what the open ordinance was. It was a use permit allocated by the city. And I would review those use permits individually before I start doing broad stroke.
So there are use permits with the CUPs, but the live entertainment permit is actually something additional to the use permit. And then ABC will come along and put additional requirements on you that could be different, right?
Sure.
So
we saw that during COVID when ABC came and threatened all.
Yeah.
Well, the county and the city said, yeah, go ahead, help it out. But I remember when the shop was going to have a bar on top, and there was going to be amplified music, and we discussed it, and we said how wonderful it would be, but we put limitations on that in terms of what those uses would be. And so I would say, I think that's a great tool. This is still a big use of the planning commission, but a great tool to manage that and to allow the businesses to continue to operate that way.
Is there a formula for the number of handicap parking spaces in downtown?
there is.
Do we meet it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
I get a lot of customers
Barely.
asking about that.
We would like more handicap parking, or accessible parking is what it's called, in downtown. It's tricky, because of curb heights and grade and things of that nature. So we're looking at that. We're working with Public Works. And there's a city-owned parking lot that we'd love to touch and repave, but as soon as we do it, it brings up that issue. How many more accessible spots do you need? And so, but we have enough now, but we need more. And that's why we want some more of these short-term parking, so people can get dropped off too, and stuff like that. But the other thing too, is a lot of people park in those accessible parking spots, and they don't have a placard, and there's no enforcement. Because right now we have a 2-hour parking limit in downtown in many areas, but there's no parking enforcement. And then people complain there's no parking in downtown, but people have been parked there for 7 or 8 hours. Or shop owners, business owners, people complain that there's no parking near my business, yet they're parked right in front of their employees are parked right in front of their business. So, we'd love to see people park at the VTA lot and walk over. We understand there's issues with safety and security, late hours, walking back and forth. So some thoughts around that. Questions, discussion. Ask Brittany the tough questions, would you?
Ready.
David?
Can we go back to the cadet program?
No.
Where, we really need badge guys, making, I don't know how much money they make, but the cadet, do things really have to that bad downtown that we really need badge guys walking as opposed to cadets that are in pairs that just observe and report? And I just, I'm thinking of dollars, and we're already struggling citywide for dollars. So, I don't know, is that a question? Yeah, I think it's a question. Do we really need badge guys, or we could use cadets if you could find them
I
to
think
walk
the
the
late
streets?
evening, Friday and Saturday night, in the later hours, it makes sense when the bars are opening and running kind of full steam. In my opinion, I think that makes sense to To have
I
an
think
armed
I suggest
officer.
you do on weekends.
It gets a little nuts.
Yeah.
I think it's
But
all
if you
full
have
late hours,
cadets
but
out there,
I mean, you get after, the cadets were done at 10 PM. And, the crazy stuff usually happens between 10 and 3. Right? So that's when you need a badge person. I mean, you don't read about it all the time, but there's been, people stabbings, guns being brandished, assaults, fights.
Short answer is yes.
Yeah, well, I got
So
the
you do
impression-
need badged folks downtown.
I got the impression that it was gonna be like an overall coverage as opposed to,
Yeah.
I could see the 10 to 2 thing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There's no doubt there are Friday, Saturday, Sunday for sure.
Okay.
The other hope is that would mitigate some of the traffic issues. We get a lot of speeding, a lot of bad behavior on the crosswalks downtown.
Yeah, and within that is, the city is doing a master transportation plan. Part of that is looking at speeds. I know that there's a lot of conversation about trying to reduce the speed in downtown. We'd like to lower the speed limit downtown, but ultimately that requires enforcement. Right now, the city's not enforcing parking. We're trying to figure out internally, do we get our code enforcement guys to go write tickets? They requires like some crazy amount of training to write parking tickets, like weeks worth of training to write parking tickets. But
They just give me a hat and a badge, and I'm happy to go out there.
but once you start doing that, right, you're gonna see all the posts on social media, and people being upset and everything like that. But I think it's something that at some point we're going to need to do. Right now, we have enough parking in downtown. We just need people to walk a little bit farther than sometimes they're used to doing. Get those steps in, right? So, but ultimately, you do need to do some enforcement. It will help clean it up a little bit. But we don't have, PD doesn't have the resources to enforce. So can we do it on the city code enforcement side? We're having those conversations.
Is that equation on parking consistent with the Mortgage Hotel and then the business across the street? Everything in terms of the next 5 years of retail development? Or where is the gap in terms of when all these things turn on?
So there is no gap, and the state has mandated now that any development within a half mile of the transit station in downtown requires no additional parking. So any project can come into that half-mile radius of the transit station in downtown, and they don't have to provide any new parking. So yes. So that's a new.
We don't need any parking.
Well, I'm not saying we don't, but right now, looking based on our last parking studies, we're in pretty good shape. There's 2,900, how many parking spots? I forget the numbers off my top of my head, but that includes the VTA lot. Now, when VTA comes along and suddenly they want to develop that lot, because that will happen, and the city would like to get control of that, so we do something cool there. You gotta maintain that parking. So we want to do something underground there, so you don't lose all of that parking.
That's awesome.
And the depot realignment has next any potential future?
No loss of parking there at all.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was a parking garage plan out there.
No, not in the plans right now.
Do you know if the new development, the lumberyard, are they going to have parking for those residents?
For their residents, they have parking.
They do.
Yeah. Yep, David.
I get a lot of positive feedback for Mogo. So Mogo is spread out, more information. People are using Mogo and they like it. So I think that's just a great thing. And then my next point is I brought this up many times and everybody thinks I'm stupid, but because we don't need any more parking down here, I love the idea of little pedicabs. We'll keep on riding around, picking people up at the train station, driving them to Maine, to Monterey, to Dunn, and going back around. And everybody says
Like
I'm stupid. Huh?
Like tuk-tuks, like those little like.
Yeah, it's a little pedicabs. And because we don't have a parking problem, you guys, we have a walking problem. You don't want to walk across the tracks from over at the BTA station to downtown. People will park the bubbles, and then they will drive to Ladera. Well, they will park at Ladera, and they will drive the bubbles. I hear it all the time.
Park at the Bank of Water.
talked about.
So, I'm just saying.
We are a spoiled town in that respect.
Sounds like an entrepreneurial opportunity for you to start. All right, we scheduled an hour, we're at an hour and 18 minutes. Want to be respectful of everybody's time. Any last questions, comments?
This was really good. I
Okay.
really appreciate
Thank you.
this.
Yeah, thank you.
How often would you like us to do this?
Quarterly.
I was just gonna say quarterly.
All right.
Feels good. I mean, unless there's not, we don't think as many developments, maybe half yearly, but quarterly feels good to
Okay.
me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
All right.
This is just focused on downtown, not the other,
That is correct.
other regions in terms of our hope to bring in more scientific study and the use of the Butterfield.
That is correct. That's not part of this discussion. That's a whole separate group.
Yeah, I'd love to
All
look
right.
at that too.
I would like to know if, I know you're in direct connection to the downtown ownership of retail spaces. Is there somewhere where existing or people who are interested in coming to Morgan Hill, where we can see a repository of all open retail spaces? Because for me, it's been like door knocking, and basically everybody that knows me knows I'm looking for a space. So I have a lot of people that are like, oh, I saw this, I saw that. But there's not anything really comprehensive, because I use
LoopNet.
LoopNet, and LoopNet is loopy.
Yeah.
But there's, things that I see come up and then they're gone, and they never went on. And so I'm like, I don't know if there's like an underground network of people that I can connect with.
There is absolutely an underground network that
Yeah.
maybe sometimes
I'm not
we're
in
not
the
even
in-crowd.
connected
Yeah,
to.
I wanna be one of
Well,
the cool
sometimes
kids.
we're not either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
a
we
little frustrating.
rely honestly on property owners communicating to us and us trying to communicate with them. And we try to connect and, maintain relationships with some
Yeah.
people. But some property owners are, candidly, they're absentee owners and they don't communicate with us.
Gotcha.
You can imagine,
I
right?
know what you're talking
So,
about.
and others are really good and let
Yeah.
us know what's going on and allow us to engage with them and allow us to introduce them to a good commercial broker who might be able to help them.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, more information we have, more helpful we can be have. And honestly, we don't want to read it about on, Nextdoor or
Yeah.
Facebook. I mean, just if you guys got problems or issues, just call us. Know how to get a hold of Brittany. Get a hold of Brittany.
I emailed you already.
But we do pride ourselves on trying to be responsive.
Yeah.
So let us know how we can help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jasmine, thank you.